Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Joseph from Jouleconcepts. I'm excited to come with a new tutorial today. And what you have here in my screen is what we're going to be looking at. We're going to look at how to create a clonal object with dynamics on it and have it interact and get attracted to this floating object. So that is what we're going to be looking at today. So without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. Alright guys, so we're going to start by creating a plane object to serve as the floor. So T for scale and scale this up. Then also we're going to create a sphere object. This sphere object, so let's use sphere in this case. So I'm going to make use of sphere um, and capsule. So we'll scale this down. In the illustration, I made use of platonic, but for this one, I'm just going to work with these two shapes. So that doesn't mean you can't work with two shapes. Just two shapes, and you're going to see how that is done. So we have these two shapes, which I'm going to be working with. Okay. All right. So I'm going to create a cloner object. So go to more graph cloner and drag these two shapes inside the cloner. Then make this grid array and reduce the height segments. So maybe this should be 50 and possibly move it up a little bit. Then maybe I'll make this 400. I just want enough clones here. So make this 4. Then increase this a bunch. Okay, 27. Are this fine? Okay, so this is good, but then it's slowing down my system now, and the reason is because I need to go and start changing this value. So if I hit NB, if I hit NB out here, it shows me the segment. You can already see that I have too many polygons here, so I'm going to reduce this. So for the height segment, maybe I want this to be 2 or thereabout. So for the cap, so I'm still working on the capsule, so you can see that from 8 I'm making this 2. Then for the cap, maybe I'm going to make this cap 4. Just want to reduce this well enough. 24 for the segments. Let's try 12 if it's not going to be too jaggy. I think that's fine for that. Then for the sphere, I'm going to make this 12. So we have less stuff to work with. So we could even come here and bring this thing back down. So let's just not bog down my system. Okay, so I think this should do. And for this place, maybe I'll make this 20. That should do. Okay, so if you still feel that your scene is slow, you could just click on this render instance and everything should be responsive. Alright, so NA to go back to shaded mode. So once you're done with this, I'm going to right click on this, go to simulation tags and add a rigid body. For the plane, I'll right click, go to simulation tag, add a collider body. So if I play now, I stopped using this option because if I'm to do the dams, I have to go to this tag and start clicking on some things. Because right now, if I play, you're going to see everything as one object, and I don't want that. I want Cinema 4D to interpret or recognize each of these instanced objects in the clone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this over to the children and play. Now all of them are seen as individual objects. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, let me bring this up 300. The second thing I want is that if you see it bounces a lot and slides, I don't want this effect, so you can see the way it's sliding. I want all of them to be piled up here. So what I'm going to do is I'll go over to this rigid tag, go to the collision section, change the bounce to maybe 0.5, and the friction, I'm going to increase this more. So let's say 500. Then for the plane also, I'm going to go to the collision, change this to very low bounce and the friction very high. Then if I play this now, it should slide less. So you see everything falls on that one place. But right now, this looks so uniform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, select my cloner, click on MoGraph, effectors, and add in a random effector. So it's going to randomize all these things. So I'll go to the random effector, go to parameter, change the Y value, just reduce this to more like 10. And for the X, maybe 20 would do, just to randomize these guys so you don't have a particular pattern. Then for the scale, do I actually need the scale? I can also randomize the scale 0.2. So some objects are big while some are small. That would do. Then the rotation also, just add some random rotations to this. So everything looks so irregular. So if I play now, false, and what I want, if you look at what we have there, so we need to create an illusion that this guy is coming up and being sucked by the object. So I need to, first off, these things are still sliding more. So I'm going to go back to this, make the bounce 0, and the friction. So let me bring this very much high, 2000. Do the same thing here, bounce 0, and the friction maybe 5000. I just don't want any bounce. I want it to just stay. Okay. I think this will do. So what I can do now is to go to any of this rigid body. I want to start my simulation from here, not from that place. So I'll go to the dynamics, click on set initial state. And as soon as I do that, if I come back to frame 0, you see we are starting from here. So that's just the starting of this. So we've just done half of this simulation. So the next thing we want to do is to, if you notice the project, you notice that the objects were rotating before it moves up and then get attracted to this object. So let's try and do that. So I'm going to select these two tags, then go to the simulate particles and click on this. So I'll be working with some. So I'll click on this rotation. Now, if I go to these guys, I want to go over to my force section. I don't want to exclude, I want to include, so that I can pick whatever force I want to include into this simulation. So now that I have this rotation, right now, the way the rotation works is that this it rotates about the axis Z, the Z axis, which is the blue axis. So if I'm to play this now, if I'm to do this, that means rotation will be about this, will be like this, but I want it to move or along the XY plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this rotation effector so that the Z axis is pointing up. All right, stuff like this. Then I can now add this rotation into this. If I click here and drag, that is added. So if I click here and play, nothing happens. The reason why we don't have anything happening is because first, go to your rotation. We're going to be working with acceleration for all of my all of the forces I'll be adding in this tutorials. But the thing here is that the angle, the speed is too small. So if I bring the speed very high to, let's say, 500 and play, you notice it starts rotating. All right, but 500 is too much. So let's say we are bringing this to 200 and playing this, start rotating a bit. I think 200 is small, so let's bring it to 300. I want this object inside to still rotate, but then I can actually increase this rotation, I can increase the speed. And if you notice, it starts becoming so chaotic, and I can bring this guy down by just changing a setting. All right, so don't worry about this. So if I go to the rigid body tag and come over to my lift here, before I come here, I'll make sure for my follow position I bring this. So let's try a value of 2. So if we replay, so that means all the objects try to stick together. They don't go haywire. So they are trying to stick together. So I can always go back here and start changing this. So if we make this 5, so they rotate, but they still try to come back together. All right. So the dynamics is what is trying to bring this guy up and bringing it down. Okay. So we can always go back and just change values till you see what you have. So now these guys are flying up, but I want them to rotate on the ground. So for me to do that, I have to go back to this rigid body tag, over to my first section. Then the lift is what I'm going to use. So if I bring this lift up to, let's say, something like 60, 70, and pause this and replay, it rotates, comes down, and it shouldn't fly up too much. All of them shouldn't be flying up. They should stay in one place. All right. So we have that. So I think the rotation strength is still small. So we could just make it 600 so that it rotates more. Okay. So we could even use a fall off for this. So if I go to the rotation and go to fall off, use a spherical fall off, notice everything gets sucked in. And why we're having this is because it's trying to make this guy the fall off for the rotation. So I can increase the fall off, just that it just covers this guy here, just outside here, and anything within this red will get that acceleration or the force that we attach to it. So if I play, so everything goes and rotates. Okay. So if I want to reduce the way this thing goes up, all I need to just start changing this value, increasing it. So if I make this 200, it should try to bring them down a little bit. Okay. All right. So we have that. So the other thing we also need to add into this is now the effect that will make this guy go up and get sucked into an object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another, okay, I'm going to create an attractor, and that attractor, I'm also going to change the attractor from, okay, make sure it's accelerate, so that's fine. Then we're going to be making use of speed limit and the force. So if I play this now, it will not be attracted because I need to add the attractor into these fields. So I'm going to drag the attractor just below this. Then it starts trying to attract this object where this attractor is. So if I move the attractor up, then you see that the effect is not coming up. And the reason why this effect is not playing out is because the attractor is saying any object that you should attract any object with the strength of 1000. That is more like the strength of the attractor. But this is what will cause the attraction to come in place. So it's making use of this speed limit. So that means it has to attain this speed limit before it can attract. All right. So that means we have to bring this guy down and start seeing before we can start seeing the effect. So let's pause and go back. Bring this to 10 to start with, and maybe bring this 100, so we know that we have enough. So if I play, it attracts, it tries to attract, so that means we don't really have enough strength here. So okay, I think he's sucking this guy in, and so this is where the attractor is. So let's start changing some things here. So if we bring this guy way up to 1000. Okay, so nothing is happening. Let's start with 1, and with this strength 1000, and let's see what we have. Okay, maybe we should use a follow. We don't have to let until we set this out before we can start changing this. So if we make this maybe 0.005, and let's see again. So we don't seem to have any effects. So if we make this false, it attracts fast. Okay, so we don't want that. I want to use acceleration. That is what I'm going to use here. So if we bring this guy, I think we should try this and bring this to 100. Okay, so now it's working. So you can see it's trying to suck this guy up here. Okay, so sorry about that. So the value was too small. So the strength is now to 1000, sorry, 10,000, and the speed limit is 100. So you're having this sucked in, but I don't want this to have effects. Um, you, I just don't want this effect to happen on all the objects. I want it to gradually get sucked in. So that is where the fall off comes in handy. So I'll click on fall off, go to sphere. So I'm going to click here. Yeah, so I'm going to bring this fall off, bring it up a little bit such that not that much. So I'm just going to scroll this up a little bit, just that it just touches this and starts sucking this up. So if I play this now, see what happens. So it gradually start coming up. All right. But then if you look at the animation I played, it was moving around an object. So what we're going to do is to create another spherical object. So bring the spherical object and zero out this so that it comes to the same position where the attractor is. So, but the main design is I want the attractor to be inside the sphere, and bring this sphere a little bit down. All right, so just like that. So on this sphere, I'm going to right click, go to simulation tag, add a collider body. So for this collider body, I'm going to reduce this also, so maybe bring this to, and the friction I don't want, I want it to slide a little bit around this guy. So if we check this now, it will start interacting with this object and get collide with it, and this object will, they start moving around the object, more like the object is attracting this. Okay, so the other thing I also did was to add a vibrator to this guy. So if I right click on this sphere and go to simulation tag, I have a vibrate tag that I added to this. So this vibrate tag is what makes this object or this sphere to move. So I'm going to zero out all this transform. So for the vibrate tag, I'm going to activate the position, bring this value to somewhat 10, 10, 10. And the frequency is the speed at which it moves. So I just want that to be 0.8. Then if I play this guy should be moving, so I could still make this 20, 20, 20, and then bring this to maybe 1.2, so you can see that the ball is moving and rotating. So, and also notice I made the attractor a child so that wherever the ball moves to or the sphere, the attractor goes. So if I want this attractor to attract even more, then what I can do is go back to the attractor and change this value. So maybe I want the strength to be 2, then the attraction gets even more. And we could also bring this guy up or even down. So maybe this is going to be 120. So let's try 250. Okay, so 250 works. So you see this moving. Okay, so are we fine with that? So that's how I did the simulation pretty well. So now you don't want to stop here, because right now this doesn't really play well because it's actually jagging. So what you can do is to cache your simulation. So for me to cache this simulation, I'm going to right click on the cloner, go to more graph tags and add more graph cache. Then I'll hit Ctrl D, go over to my dynamics. So the first thing is going over to my expert, change this step back part frame to somewhat 15 or 10, just to make the simulation a lot accurate. The higher the value, mind you, the higher the value, the slower the cache is going to be. Then once you're done, just pick the cache. So once I bake the simulation and get back, you see that this should play a lot faster. Oh, another thing is, okay, once we get back, you see what we have and we can know whether to change some things or not. So just hold on while I get back. All right, so it's about to catch out and we are done. So if I'm to play this now, see what we get to have. So notice I always have this issue. So what I do is just to go to a different one and play from there. So you see the effect playing out. And I can decide to just hide this tractor and all right, so that's how to do that. So another thing is, if you notice in the other presentation, I also added some things there, but you might not know. But what I also added was a little bit of turbulence and destructor, but the destructor I didn't really see effect of that destructor, so I just added turbulence. And also, if you play this and you feel that the animation is too fast, you can always go back, delete the cache, and go to the force, add a little bit of drag to it, and that should solve that problem. So I think this was helpful. So you can just look for things to do with this. You could possibly have effects. These effects were used in some of these animations. I know of Big Hero 6 and stuff like that. So you could also use this kind of effect to attract objects and they float on a particular object. So if this was helpful, please do give me a like and a thumbs up, because it helps me in the YouTube algorithm. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe before I do tutorial, because I do tutorials like this. So do have a wonderful day and God bless you. Bye.